I want you guys to share with me the way that you are used to keeping up with your time, managing your time. What is your current time management system? And I kind of want you guys to talk me through what you use, why you picked it, and what it does for you. Natasha, you're first.
So my time was dictated before by school schedules and all of my kids' extracurriculars, and balancing around that and knowing I could work during preschool hours and knowing, that whatever. But a lot of my work time was built around these calls because I can completely check out and then work for the rest of the night. But I use a planner with I can open it really fast, where it has 3 different sections for, personal and 2 different businesses. And so I keep track of things that way and write down day by day who I've talked to or what I have to do, or write my to-do lists in it.
And why did you pick that, and what does that end up doing for you?
I picked this because it has, like I said, the 3 different sections, because I have 2 businesses and then my personal life with all my kids' stuff. And I was always writing things down anyway, making notes in my phone, making draft. Right now I've drafted things in my email. So it's just a way to keep everything all together, and so that I could flip back. And then I was already writing down who I was talking to anyway, but this keeps it all in one place so that I can flip back and follow up based on who I talked to the week before or the previous weeks. But it works-ish. I resist schedules to my core. So this was a really big move for me. It took me 2 years of buying these before I actually got regimented and started religiously using them. But now I love it. And I'm I get to write things down.
That's really cool. That's cool. I know we've talked about this before, but I have always enjoyed the planners that are laid out like that as well, because as we'll talk about tonight, I'm interested to hear what everybody is utilizing to keep track of their time and manage their time. But at the end of the day, we all have the same amount of time. It's where we put it, where we choose to put it, how we are managing it, that will end up mattering. So Tina, what about you?
I said I was afraid you were going to call on me next.
You're next. You don't overthink it. I mean, it's just it's out of curiosity, and then also for really just for for everybody to get some ideas before we start.
So I don't have a schedule that I follow. When I do any reach outs, it's usually first thing in the morning, because that's my quiet time, and I can do that without interruption, usually at that time.
Yeah. And so do you sit down and make a list? Do you have a daily list of things to do, or do you have a certain time when you like to work, or do you have anything like that?
Not really, no.
Okay. Becca, what about you?
Hey, sorry, I just pulled up here. So that's why I'm here, because I don't really have my whole time management system runs off of my alarms that go off for Samuel. I have, right now we have 12 alarms I do that go off all throughout the day for the different things he needs. I've had up to double that though. So 12 is not much for me. So literally my whole world revolves around when he has to get meds, when he has to eat. He doesn't have a super regular pattern. He's not one of these. It's every day he sleeps at this time. So my schedule is very fluid. I just have to work it. With my business, I work when I can throughout the day, just depending on what he does. I try to do things when he's asleep. It's very easy to work from your phone while you're holding a baby or whatnot, or put in orders during doing tummy time with your iPad. But I do I have a planner kind of not exactly like Natasha's, but that's kind of where I've kept up with things, with who I've talked to, and when people have ordered, and I've kind of slacked off on that probably in the last 2 or 3 months, honestly. I was very vigilant about writing things down for a really long time. And I think that kind of started slacking for me lately. So
your boat is, well, besides all the timers and stuff, but your boat is a lot like mine was before I started time blocking. Totally.
yeah. So hopefully, I think this will be good for me.
Yep. Kathy, what about you?
It's a little different. Tina and I are kind of in the same boat. We're retired, so we have often a lot of hours during the day. I also have a planner. I'm a list maker. I tend to do my work for 2 hours in the afternoon, usually 1 to 3. Yeah, but I have to be really honest. I have failed miserably in the last probably week or 10 days when things started ramping up and we realized we were going to be in, homebound, and and I think I'm depressed. I think I'm isolated. I'm alone, and I'm lonely. I'm a people person, and because I live alone with my dog, it's hard. It's hard not being able to see anybody, not being able to see my grandkids or my kids. And I think because of that, I'm a little depressed. I think it's hard for me to motivate right now. And I had so many cancellations last week. I had so many appointments and reach outs I had done and follow-ups. And then probably like everybody, it just all fizzled. Everything was canceled. So
you have had a lot of customer cancellations?
Just meetings.
Oh, okay.
Meeting cancellations. So new customer business meetings. And so, yeah.
Trisha, you can tell them what you're using. I'm pretty sure I know what you're using right now, but tell them a little bit about how it looks for you.
1 second.
Okay.
So yeah, I used to do some time blocking. My time was on point when I did some time blocking. But now I just use, mostly it's on the computer. I do have a paper planner, buy one every year, and I never end up using it. And so now I plan everything usually on Sunday, everything that I know I need to accomplish for the week. And then I look at my work schedule and what days I'm off. Normally I only have like maybe 1 or 2 days off. Yeah. And then I just sit down and figure out what I need to do that day, or like what time of the day it is, because my time zone and all that. And so yeah, mine's mostly electronic. And then I like that too, because I can take it with me. Like I can look at my list that I make from my phone also. Yeah. So that's convenient for me.
That's awesome. All right, Deb, what about you? What are you using right now?
I'm a list maker, but I will tell you, I am really, really struggling because I do have all day and all night, and I'm letting it literally go all day and all night. So my husband's complaint is, I thought this fit around your life, so it has become your life again.
Yeah.
I'm not being as efficient as I could be for sure. And so it's like I'll start to do one thing, and then I'll see this really great article, and I'll go, oh, Facebook. So then I do this Facebook post, and then I see somebody, and I go, oh, I should message them. So then I message them, and it's like, I don't know if you guys have ever seen that cartoon about the woman that's trying to clean her house and never actually gets the room clean that she started in. She starts there, and then she has to take something to the kitchen, and then she gets distracted in the kitchen.
Yes.
So I'm very interested to hear what you're using. I'm really, really struggling with the lack of a very good CRM, to manage the customers, because, I was doing it. I tried using Penny, but there's no way to pull reports. So then I started going to the paper method. But then you're like flipping through 4 pages to see, well, when did I talk to them? And then there's not enough room to keep it. So I'm like, okay, now I'm going to have to enter all that stuff I put on paper into Excel so I can at least sort it. So I'm just saying I'm struggling with systems. So I'm excited to hear what you have to say.
Okay. Well, welcome to year 2 of my business, Deb. That was year 2 of my business. It was pretty much, it wasn't a waste of time, but it was definitely a cluster of time because that was, and I'll tell you that, what I did when I finally came home and I was working from home and I finally got everything I ever wanted, having all 24 hours in your day is what everybody wants, right? Everybody wants it. Give me my time, give me this, blah, blah, blah. But what I found was that is also a lot of pressure. It is a beautiful gift and it holds a ton of responsibility because when you hand somebody 24 hours in a day, the next question is, well, what will you do with it? And you all have been through this. Deb, you just described exactly what my major pain point was. And then since I didn't know what to do with all that time, I just started volunteering for a ton of stuff. And I mismanaged it like crazy. I had the kids home for homeschool, and there was a lot of wasted time. So the point, time blocking, start at the beginning. So the idea behind time blocking is that you will work less, right? And Deb, I'm going to use what you just said as an example because it's a very, very good one. What we do, I literally hate nooks and crannies, okay? Because that is not, it is true, but it's not true. Because you need to be specific, and we'll talk about this as we go through. I have about 4 or 5 major things. What we do is very purposeful. And it's just like if you have a money budget, you get money and you tell your money where to go, or else you turn around and you say, where did my money go? And that's like, welcome to everybody's 20s, right? And that's what happens. And it's the same thing with your time, especially if you're not used to working for yourself or working from home or trying to fit something like this in an already crazy busy life. You must tell your time where to go. And towards the end, I'll talk about when I plan, and I'm going to show you guys my Google Calendar that I use now. I used to be a paper and pen gal, and I have now fully switched over to the Google Calendar, and I am really liking it. I swore I'd never do it, but because I'm doing it this way, it is working for me. I will say you do not have to be an electronic calendar person. You could totally do the exact same thing that I'm doing on paper, because as I go through this, I'm doing this as well with my children for homeschooling. We all sit down at the beginning of the week, and that's what I do too, the same as what Tricia said. I sit down at the beginning of my week and I have my list of things that are important. So you're talking about your income producing activities. How many people did you say you were going to reach out to? And so then the next question is, well, when are you going to get it done? Because just because we have all day to work this business, if we do, like Deb, Tina, or Kathy, just because we have all day does not mean this takes all day. Because the last thing that you want is to turn around and have a spouse or a child or somebody resent this business, which is something that I have been through before. And I know other people have gone through and are going through. It's very hard to have that. And it's like, well, you said you were going to do this so that you could X, Y, Z. And your husband's like, oh, you said that this wouldn't take that much time. And in fact, the real problem was when I turned around and looked at myself, and what you're going through right now is that it wasn't the problem. I was the problem. I was mismanaging it. And so we want to work less, we want to focus more, and we want to earn more. When we do sit down to work, we want it to be income producing activity. We want it to be, and we want to have those great ideas. I'm not saying that like those wonderful ideas, and I'm going to tell you what to do with those ideas too. But when we have those ideas, they go in a different place and we figure out where to get them executed as well. But you want to earn more by using your time more specifically. And so when you think about the whole thing, of course, back this up and tell you, if you haven't read the book, The One Thing, it is the first book that my business coach told me to read. I loved it. And this is where I got the majority of this information from. It's by Gary Keller, and it is very good. And it really has changed since January, the way that I get everything done. Way less complaints in my house, way less complaints in my head too. So the idea is that you're thinking big, right? You're thinking about, this is my big goal, but these are the bite-sized things that I need to do every day or every hour or every whatever to get them done. And the question that he asked throughout the entire book is, what is the one thing such that doing that one thing, everything else will be either easier or unnecessary? And so he goes through the book and he's teaching you about that. the one thing, and I actually even have this written in my kitchen and a couple other places in my house to remind me that when using my time blocks, when using my time, the idea is, what is the one thing that I can do right now that is not, that will get me closer to my big goal? Does that make sense to you guys? It's just, it's a super simple concept, but that's what we want to focus on. So with that, you've got to know where you're going. You've got to have a future goal, which that's a whole nother training. But and looking at most of you on here, I know you've already set goals. I know you have future goals. And what you're doing is you're working backwards with it. And that's the information that you'll use when you time block. For this specifically, and like I said, I'll use some other examples. I am doing this with my children for their homeschooling work, but for this specifically, we're just going to be talking about our business work. So you'll go, what's my goal this year? What do I need to accomplish this quarter? What does that mean I need to accomplish this month? What does that mean I need to accomplish this week? And then backing up to how I do it on Sundays is, okay, what do I need to do today? So this is what I have to do this week. And then I go ahead and look at my calendar and I see the time. And okay, this is what I need to do today to get to that goal. So that's the whole point. That's the large picture of it. And what it comes down to is, like you guys were just talking about, the different planning, the different time management systems. It's format versus function completely. What you do every day, it matters. What we do every day in our business correlates specifically to our paycheck. That's it. Our paychecks do not just land, like they don't just come to us. We luckily get customers through referrals and great marketing sometimes, but it is from exactly what we do. And so that means that the time management system that you all are using matters. And Natasha, it sounds like you like yours, and you were here for the last one too, though. It sounds like you have a really good handle on what you're doing. And Trisha, I think what you're doing right now is probably working well for you. But one of the things is that as we have changes, we need something that's fluid. We need something that's flexible and that can change with us as well, especially in the time that we're in now, because your life just got thrown upside down and you want to have a steady time management system. So it's really not the format of it. It's not how many columns it has. It's not what stickers that come with it. It's not what color it was. It's not what size it was. I did used to really like having something I could take with me, which is why I'm loving Google Calendar. But it's not any of that. It's the function. It's what does it do? So we already talked about what kind of system you guys have and how you like it and how that does. But how we use our time, it does. Time specifically turns into money for us. Productive people can earn more and can rest more. And one of the things that I thought was so interesting that he talked about in the book was, and we'll go through, next we'll go through which ones to plan, like what do we plan first. But what he talked about was that productive people earn more. And the most interesting thing was that the high earning people that he worked with, when he was interviewing them and learning about them, they all scheduled their vacation time and their time off and their downtime first. And ever since adopting time blocking, and there are different ways. If you look up on the internet time blocking, you're actually going to run into a lot of different things. And what I'm talking to you guys about tonight, what I'm going to share with you guys, is the way that I have found that works for me. Because I did try time blocking about 2 years ago. I heard another leader train on it and I was like, oh, I want to do that too. And I jumped in and I started time blocking and I started specifically, rigidly blocking these times. And, you guys know enough about my life to know that you can't do that with the kind of life that I live. That does not work at all. There's always somebody that's going to come in and throw it off. And so I thought time blocking didn't work for me. But in fact, it does. In fact, it does. And so one of the things that I learned from that I'm going to, when we walk through what to do first and what specific things to time block in order, the very first thing that you should time block is your time off. And I really like that, because if you do think about it, those people, they're already planning for success. They're already planning for success. They already know they're going to need time off. They already know that they're going to have used their time really effectively, and boom, they need it. And so they go ahead and they put that in. And I think that that's really, really important. So what we want to do is we want to plan our time specifically, and we want to fiercely protect it, absolutely protect it. Let me see here. Okay. So like I said, first of all, I'm totally going to stick to my notes. I do not want to get off here. I plan on Sunday. And I also plan on the day after. I have my coaching calls on Wednesday. And so I plan on Sunday, and then I plan or / readjust on Wednesday. And so that's kind of what you'll see in my examples. Your calendar records appointments. And for me, this is something that I had thought of before, but I had never thought of in this way. Your calendar it records the appointment. Whatever you write down in it, you can write down like 9 a.m. doctor's appointment. It's specific. Like you have to be there. You have to check in with someone, right? You can write 9 a.m. appointment with self for income producing activity. Your calendar is just, it's just a management system. Like that's it. You can write in whatever you want. It doesn't matter who it's with. It doesn't care about any of that. It's what you're using to say where it's going to go. Again, just like a money budget there. So I plan on Sundays, and then I touch base again midweek, which is the day after coaching for me, because I have new information to put in. So for you, you'll need to figure out what day works well for you. I highly suggest using a Sunday because that's the beginning of your week, and it just makes so much sense. And I know you've heard a few of us say this before as well. If you're not already doing it on Sundays, I also highly suggest that you are writing down the people. Take the time to go ahead and write down the 12, 15, 18, 20 people that you are going to reach out to that week. Think about, for me, that helps me because I'm able to sit down and go ahead and think about that person. I'm able to think about that human. You know, these are the people that I'm going to reach out to that week. I'm paying attention to them on social media, and I'm already scheduling in there how I'm going to do that. So back to the calendar, it records your appointments. It does not care who it's with. That's all it is. Success is built by doing those little things that work every single day. Whenever you build your habits, whenever you sit down on Sunday, whenever you focus on the people ahead of time, the other thing that it does is it keeps your brain from tricking itself. Like, oh no, not that person. Because you already sat down, you already wrote wherever you want to keep your list. And Deb, we'll talk about list after this. We'll talk about a CRM and list and how I do that after specific time blocking. But you can't trick your brain out of it. You don't give yourself any time to do that. You already wrote it down. You were already thoughtful about it. Those are the people you said you were going to reach out and talk to, and that's what you're going to do. And success is built by showing up and doing just that simple thing every day. Like that's what gets those extraordinary results. That's what does it. It's just being super purposeful with your time, with your people, and managing that. And if we think about it, before we even get into the 3 and 4 things that we do block there, if that's all you did specifically every week, if you sat down on Sunday, and let's just get real wild and say 40, 50, I guarantee you that you could find time in your week with so much time to spare to just reach out to those 40 to 50 people. It's not, I mean, if you just let that sink for just a second, it takes minimal time in the entire week to do that, really minimal time. So when we sit down to time block, like I had just mentioned, the very first thing that you are going to block is going to be your time off. You're planning for success. You know you're going to want it. You know you're going to need it. You intend to be successful. And I know that may be shocking to some of you guys, but if you are willing to be coachable and give time blocking a go, you're going to need to start with your time off. And that can be date nights. It can be friend get-togethers. It can be an actual vacation. It can be, this is the time this is the time I'm spending with my family. This is the time that Scarlett and I are going to do a puzzle. Like, you block that time in, because that is the precious time. And in fact, for everybody here, I know that is the reason that we are doing this. It's because of the people that we love. That's why we do this. And so why in the world would we want our business to eat up all of our time and not have any of it to give to the people that we love? So the very first thing you're going to do is go in there. And if we go back to the beginning of what I was talking about, if you've got your year calendar, go ahead and block out your vacations. Give yourself something to be excited about. Plan a girls trip, plan that stuff. Go ahead and block that off. And then look in your month And then look in your week, see where you need to spend time with special people during that week. And so again, I do that on Sundays. I sit down and I figure out which child I'm going to spend special time with and the things that I'm going to do with Brian and how all that stuff is going to happen. So that's the very first thing that you're going to do. The second thing that you are going to block out of that is going to be your one thing. Okay. If we go back to what I said there in the beginning, his quote is, what's the one thing, such as doing it, everything else will be easier or unnecessary. So for all of us, we're going to have the same-ish one thing, especially because we're just talking about business. But as you take time blocking and you go into your life, your one thing, it might be a little bit different. And also, I would like, this is a good time to tell you that when we have our one thing, so my one thing right now is the percentage of growth that I want in my business for the year. That's my main one thing. And so when I sit down, what's the one thing that I can do, make it all else easier? Hell, that is recruiting. That's what that is. And so I know that's the one thing that's going to move the needle for me. But anytime that a child has a crisis or something happens in the family or, you know, an emergency comes up like that, my one thing gets shifted. And so my coach, Sarah, is so good about saying to me, Sarah, your one thing changed today. And so that's the one thing that I focus on. But for the intensive purposes of just specifically what we do in our business, your one thing, that's the most important appointment. So for us, the most important thing that you are going to block out is when are you going to do your reach outs? Because remember, you already sat down on Sunday. And hopefully your time, you know, you're saying this is Sunday still. You've already made your list of people you're going to reach out to. And so the next thing you're going to do is you're going to look around the time off and you're going to go, okay, when does my brain function the best? So for me, I'm a morning brain person. By the time we get off of here tonight, my brain will be dysfunctioning. Okay. No good. I know that I am fresh and best in the morning. And that's just when I work the best, when everything flows the best, when I make the most sense. Children haven't gotten to me yet. And so that's for me when I schedule my one thing. So for you all will have to ask yourselves, and I'm actually curious, how many of you are here are morning people? You're fresh, you're best, you're good to go in the morning.
Definitely me.
Yeah. How many of you are night people? Natasha. Natasha and Becca are total night people. It's really weird. A few years ago, I encountered a switch. I used to be a night person. I was on, and I just can't do it anymore. So who knows? But it really is interesting to see how everybody's different because they are. So whenever you do that, you want to use the focusing question, which is what is the one thing? You're going to want to use that focusing question if you have any time left, because the other thing that successful people do is, let's say that you said you were going to reach out to 10 people that day. And let's be realistic. It takes a little bit of time. Now, we talked about it takes a minimal time to actually do the job, but you should put some thought and some minutes into what are you going to say to the person? Are you going to send them a video message? Are they a voice message kind of person? Or do you email them? Whatever you're going to do. So you're going to put some thought into that. And let's say you gave yourself an hour to reach out to 10 people. Those of you guys who do Power Hour with me, you know how quick that hour goes by, right? It really does go by. I think I used to set myself up for failure a ton, total self-sabotage whenever I would be like, I'm going to do this today. And I never realized how much time it took to do it. And I consistently wouldn't get it done. And it had everything to do with the fact that I wasn't actually keeping a budget of my time and where it was going and what I was doing. And so I had a lot of unrealistic expectations and goals. And so this time management with time blocking has helped that tremendously. Where I was going with that was, if you gave yourself an hour to reach out to 10 people and you got it done super fast, say maybe it was an easy reach out day, they were all follow-ups and you were able to use the same type video or language with all of them and you just snapped it right out. What successful people do that's different is we don't walk away then. We stay at our desk or in our corner or in the closet, wherever it is we're hiding and working. We stay there and we ask ourselves the focusing question again. All right, well, what's the one thing that I can do now? I've got some time left because I told my time where it was going. And this is the hour that I said I was working, and I was working on reach outs. So we have a couple of different choices. You can choose to barrel through some more of your lists that you made on Sunday. You can choose to get creative maybe ask somebody for referrals. You can choose to ask your current customers if they want to host a virtual event for you. There are a laundry list of things that we can do with that time that would all have to tie back to the one thing that we could do that would really push our business growth the most, which is recruiting. Does that make sense to you guys?
Yeah.
I really love that. And that changed for me. That also changed for me because instead of twiddling my thumbs or getting up and organizing something, or God forbid, clean my desk again or something else during that time that I said I was working, no, you sit down and you ask yourself that focusing question again. What's the one thing I can do now? And that one thing for us, there's many ideas. I gave you guys a few of them there, but there are a lot of different ideas, asking for referrals, asking happy customers to host virtual events for us so that we can bring in more referrals, and then barreling through that list that we made on Sunday, because gosh, at the end of the week, what if we get to reach out to more people or follow up with more people than we said we were going to on Sunday? That's always awesome. There is nothing wrong with that. So
hey, Sarah, can I ask a question?
Of course, please, please.
So like, do you set aside another time in the afternoon and evening, like where you've spent that 1 hour reaching out to people? You know, say you've got people that may not be able to answer back until later in their day.
Yeah.
So do you set aside another time like to answer, you know what I mean? Like where people have messaged you back or whatever?
Absolutely. I am going to show you, I'm going to screen share as soon as I'm done yapping. And you guys, please ask questions. If you've been around me long enough, you know there's nothing I dislike more than talking at people. If you have questions, totally throw them my way. I am going to screen share with you whenever I am done with this, and I'm going to actually show you in real time. The cool thing is with this crisis going on, I'm going to go back and I'm going to show you what it looked like a couple of weeks ago, and now that I'm going to show you what I changed it to today. So I'm in the middle of switching up my time blocks. I started yesterday and I was working a little bit more on it this morning. So you'll get to see how I do that in real time. But also I will tell you guys, this is not specific to time blocking, but this is specific to my my boundaries with my phone and my family and my business. Is I do check in on my phone normally around 8 o'clock at night. I don't do any business after that, unless one of you has texted me directly, because my notifications are off in Messenger. I don't do any business after about 8 or 8:30. And so at that time, I'll open my phone one more time. I see if anybody wrote me back. And if I need to write anyone back, I do that one last final time before I put my phone away. And that keeps my phone from running me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can't tell you guys enough. It's interesting to be on this side of teaching you guys this, because my phone used to run me, my business used to run me. I used to think that this is what I had to do to grow my business, and I couldn't have been more wrong. And I'm so glad, again, I'm so grateful for Sarah teaching me this and telling me to read this book and letting me know that it could be different if I was willing to give it, a shot. So let me catch my notes up here. Yeah, we stop when the work is done. Again, the key thing here is productivity. For me, early in the day is best. You guys will figure out your time when to get that is done. This is interesting. I'm going to give you guys this example. This example does not apply specifically to our business, but we can take it. We can take the time frame and kind of model it for hours. He gave the example in the book of what was recommended was 4 hours a day. And mind you, he's of course a real estate person, and he works with many different other, business CEOs and managers and people that are building businesses. And so 4 hours a day would not be much for them. And so his recommendation was that for your one thing, you block out 4 hours a day. In the morning, your morning time. Now, this can apply to us. And Becca, you'll see how this works for me in a couple of different ways. In the morning, or whenever your brain is firing best, that is when you make. And so if you're taking notes, something that you'll want to write down is that there are two different time differences. One is make and one is manage. And so for me, when I make and create, and I have a note up here on my computer that tells me every day, create before you consume. So for me, I am making first And then my later time block, I'm managing. That's where I'm answering people. I'm doing team things. You know, I'm getting to all of that stuff in the afternoon because my creative brain is on and making first in the morning. But he recommended 4 hours a day. And he gave the example of Stephen King. Natasha, do you remember me talking about this the first time? I was running when I was listening to this book, and it like literally made me like stop and rewind it and listen to it again, because someone was quoted to asking him. He said Stephen King wrote 4 hours a day. Stephen King wrote in the morning. Stephen King this. And then someone said, well, that's nice because he's Stephen King and he can do that. And he replied with, no, no, no. He's Stephen King because he did that. And that goes back to what I said earlier, that success is built in those simple daily routines. That's where you get an extraordinary business. That's where you get the big results that I know so many of us are working for. It is not in these rat race, hamster wheel, time activities that we're doing to keep ourselves busy. It's the specific productivity time. And it is true. Stephen King is a great example. He's Stephen King because he did that. He didn't wake up one day and have all that time and be like, oh, well, here I am. So I hope that is as a good of an example to you as it was to me whenever I heard that. Kathy?
Can I just add something? I just read it last night in The One Thing, that everybody thinks that successful people or really productive people are highly disciplined.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, no, we all have the same amount of discipline, if you would. It's habits, like you were just talking about, Sarah, is that what you do is you create habits, and you stick to that habit, and you discipline that habit. But that's all it is.
It is. Habits run my life now. I'm a habit junkie. I've almost read all the habit books out there, and I'll reread them because it's my favorite topic. Because for me, as complicated as I feel like our life is sometimes, if I didn't have these habits, and before I had these habits, I was a hot mess. Still am some days, but they help. So you will have to create the boundaries. The next thing is that you will have to create boundaries around them. So you're going to do your time off, and then you're going to do your one thing. And then within your one thing, you're going to make first and manage later, or at least make with your freshest brain and then manage with your slug brain or your sluggy brain. But the next thing you're going to have to do is create boundaries. And for you guys that have a lot of little people in your house, or spouses that are worried about the time that you're spending, everybody will adjust. And I know that was something that I was a little bit worried about, was, okay, once I create these boundaries, how is everybody going to adjust? How's everybody going to deal with this new thing that I'm doing? And it turns out everybody's still alive. They're just fine, and they still love me, probably because I feed them. But everything is fine. Everything's still going good in the house. And I'm going to talk to you guys about different ways that you can do that. So let me make sure here. Boundaries. Dun, 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 dun. Actually, we will talk about tips about how to really enforce those boundaries in just a second. Okay, so planning time, we talked about annual, weekly, working the domino effect there, and then to adjust as needed throughout the week. So after you have blocked those and you've created boundaries, your job is to not break the daily chain of action. That's it. That's your job. Wake up, do your habit, get into your one thing, and don't break the chain of action. It's like, I think, and this may be in the book too, or this maybe I've heard this somewhere else. Seinfeld. He wanted to, one of the things that he did that he credits for his success is that he wrote a new joke every single day. And he actually had like a big calendar up on his wall, and he said that he like marked it off. So the idea is that you do that every single day. You don't break the chain. This is how you create the momentum. Momentum is what everybody wants. It's the happy feeling. You're in flow. You're doing a good job. The results are starting to show. And even when the results aren't showing, you feel good because you know you've created that momentum and you're doing everything that you know that you're supposed to be doing to move you towards that one thing. One day at a time, it does get easier. Trisha, I think you talked about this a few weeks ago or maybe a month ago or something. It does get easier. It's just one thing that we're supposed to be doing. And whenever we show up every day, when we show up that first day, when we first start something like this, it feels hard. You feel resistance. You haven't been doing it a really long time, and it just feels weird. You haven't been doing it, but you've got to show up and not break that chain and keep doing it, and it will get easier. Momentum and motivation, like it's not magic. It seems magic, and it feels like magic whenever the habit does start to take over. And it does start to just take over, and it becomes like a momentum feeling. So the last thing that you want to do is protect it. And that's going to be your boundaries there. One of the things that we all need to know and remember when it comes to our business was our choice. It was our choice. It's something that we wanted to do. We love it. Hopefully we had some support in it whenever we were doing it. But the world is not responsible for your business's success, your happiness, your time, your anything. They're not responsible for knowing or protecting the time blocks that you set. And that's going to be harder for some of you than others, depending on the support you have or the dynamics that you have in your home and in your personal life. But the world isn't responsible for that. You are responsible for knowing and protecting the time blocks and the boundaries and the one thing that you said that was important. One of the things that I liked a lot was just a very simple quote, and I do use this now, and it has worked wonderfully. It's so simple. I don't know why I ever didn't think of it before, but one of the things that I'll say is, I'm sorry, I already have an appointment at that time. Because like we talked about before, your calendar doesn't know who you have an appointment with, right? Nobody else knows. The world doesn't know, and they're not responsible for any of it. And so it's very easy, truthful, to say, I'm sorry, I already have an appointment at that time. If someone, depending on your dynamic again, if someone really needs something from you, then you can be flexible and say, can you tell me what it is? And then they can tell you what it is. And then you can say something along the lines of, would it be okay if I got to it at this time? So there are definitely, I know we all have things coming at us from different angles that need to be handled, different other jobs or children or spouses or outside sources, things that we volunteer at. That hits me a lot. But the idea is, I'm sorry, like I already have an appointment at that time. Would it be okay? I'd love to do that for you, but can I do it later? And the thing is, that's normally a yes. Someone normally just wants to know, hey, can you help me with this? They don't know about your time blocks. They're not out to sabotage them. They just want to know if you can do it. And your answer can be yes, but it just still needs to be done outside of your time blocks. Does that make sense to you guys? Okay. So the tips for, one more thing before we get into the last tips. If you erase something, so this is the thing that tripped me up in the beginning. Something would happen, a crisis would occur, or someone would need me, something would really happen, especially when Adeline was thrown up at school in the middle of a time block, and oh boy, had to leave it. There's nothing I could do. Got to go pick that child up. Oh, well, my time block's ruined. No, ma'am, because the rule is if you erase, you must replace. And so I had previously gotten myself into a lot of trouble. I felt a lot of mom guilt, a lot of boss guilt, a lot of all of the guilt, because I would tell myself I was going to get something done at a certain time, and then something would come up and I wouldn't get it done at all. But in fact, that is not the way that it works. And Natasha knows that I still have something on my to-do list that has not gotten done, and it will get done, but it has not gotten erased. It has gotten replaced. It has gotten moved to another time that will be better overall. And so I hope that makes sense to you guys. It would be way too easy for us to create these time blocks and then something come up and then not do it. And it's not the time blocks that aren't working for us. It's our responsibility, and it's our business. It goes back to, it's not the world's responsibility to keep up with all of our stuff. It's ours. There will always be distractions. I know I've talked about that a ton in different other things. I'll go ahead and tell you what to do. Deb, you were talking about, having ideas come in. When it comes to distraction, when it comes to ideas, I want you guys to, for me, it's just a pad of paper that I bought at TJ Maxx. That's it. I keep this on my desk right here. And when I have distractions, when I have ideas, because ideas are distractions too, especially against our one thing that we are using our time blocks to get done. There'll always be those distractions. So what you want to do is when they come up, you want to have a master list somewhere where you jot it down and you move on. Jot it down and move back to what you were doing. You do not let that idea, beautiful creations, you don't let it distract you. You stick to the thing you said you were going to do. And then if you have that extra time, or again, you probably have another time block set up like I do, that time block can be for creation and different things like that. Okay, so that's what you'll do with those lists. You write it down, then you move on. All right, last thing we're going to talk about is how do you protect it? It is the most important thing. You've got to figure out what the most important thing is to you, your one thing, and then you've got to time block it out, and then you have to protect it like crazy because everybody is coming at us. We are women, and everybody is coming at us for our time and our help and our resources and everything. The very first thing that you can do to protect it is to build a bunker. And I made a funny about it earlier, but for real, it's been my closet, it's been a corner. I do have a desk now, wherever it is. That door for me now is my bunker door. When that door is shut, for the most part, I might get a head peek in, but they know that I'm working. They know that someone is in here, and it took a little while. Like I said before, it may take a little while, but everyone will adjust to your boundaries. So create a bunker of some sort, an area that you work, put a sign up if you need to, put a sign on your back, whatever you need to do that just says, because at the end of the day, I think everybody on here, we all have people in our lives, friends and family and spouses and kids, but they love us and they want us to be successful. And so if we make our boundaries clear to them, most of them are not going to push through it. So it's really up to you to make that clear. Build your bunker, make your sign, whatever you need to do, protect it. The second one really made me giggle. Store provisions. So the other thing that can get to us often is, I need a snack. I'm thirsty. I'm this. I'm that. Right? Then the next thing you see yourself, you're all walking to the water, walking to the kitchen, whatever. And then you're checking your phone, and then you're doing whatever. Then you're doing like whatever. So for real, wherever the places that you work, totally store provisions. Okay. The third thing you're going to do is, he called it sweeping for minds. And that is your internet, your notifications. I've talked about this a lot in other things. Turn your notifications off. Whatever you need to do for that time block that you said you were getting your one thing done, turn it off. For me, I work on my computer. I will throw my phone in the bed, or I'll go put it in another room. Whatever you need to do, however distracted you are, whatever little or lot of self-control that you have or don't have, turn it off. Turn it off, get it off. So you're really going to need to check out, just take inventory of what kind of notifications you have, anything that can distract you, and make sure that you get that out of the way, because multitasking isn't good. So the fourth thing that you want to do is get support. And we kind of talked about this when it comes to building a bunker, but you really do want to get support. For me, whenever I got serious about this again and these changes, I definitely was transparent, talked to my husband, let my kids know like what the new boundaries were and what we were working for again. This is what I'm doing, and being transparent with them and letting them know when you can be accessed. So for me, today is a great example. We had this big block of time where I was with them and we were doing school. And then I let them know, guys, until 3 p.m., I'm not accessible. If someone is injured, you may come in. I do not want to see your faces otherwise. And it was great. Some days it's not, right? Because they're kids. But until 3 o'clock, I was able to then work. And then what I had told them was when I can be accessed again. I said, if I can get all my stuff done, if you'll leave me alone until 3 o'clock, then I'll come back out. I'll make dinner. We can hang out. I will everything. And then I'm going to go back in at 6 o'clock and I'll see you guys at bedtime. And so setting expectations for your people is very, very important. So that's the end of the bulk of the notes. I want to give you guys a little bit of time to ask questions. I know we're already after 7 o'clock. We chit-chatted in the beginning and the Zoom link failed, but oh well. We're going to keep going. I want to show you guys my example, and then I'll stop recording and we will move into regular Meetup Monday time. Questions? Do you guys have can you guys get a decent visual on what this might look like for you?
I have a question.
Yeah.
And it's kind of for everybody. And I just want to compare what I'm doing to what everybody else is doing. How many hours a week are each of you putting into your business? And that can be anything, answering in a text, you know, whatever. How many hours?
I'll let you guys answer first.
Mine's probably about roughly an hour a day, depending on the days that I work, about an hour, and then the days that I don't work, maybe, I don't know, 3 hours, depending on what I'm, you know, what's on my plate, or, you know, what my work week looked like.
Anybody else?
Has it always been that way, Tricia? I mean, did you used to work more or less, or has it always been an hour?
So when I first started, my life looked like yours. I was, well, no, my life didn't look like yours, but no, it didn't look like yours, but I started my doctorate program, so I was working full time, like 6 days a week, but I lived and breathed Rodan and Fields. Like, it was nonstop. And so now that I'm married and I have children, I know that I have to have a better balance with that. So, because, you know, I found myself in the first year, like, just going at it nonstop, and it wasn't really like productive. Like, you think if you're doing something, it's going to like produce results, and sometimes it does, but it doesn't always. And really just getting really clear on what your activity, what the important activity is, doing that, and then setting it aside is way better.
That makes sense.
I would absolutely have to agree with her. That was it. But I will say I put in, I can count.
But I'm always thinking about it.
Yeah,
you know,
I know,
like,
right?
if I'm at work.
Your business, yeah.
Yeah, I put in about 15 to 17 hours where I sit down and I am working. And so, so I put in between 15 and 17 currently. But it definitely used to look like that. It felt like I was working all the time, and how much did I get done? I don't even know. But like Tricia said, it's always on I'm washed in it.
Yeah. I probably put in 10 to 12 hours a week. And Tricia, I feel like you, like, I should be more productive, and I'm not, which is one of the reasons that I'm coaching with Sarah, the other Sarah.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I mean, that's the thing. She taught me, she taught me the book, and then the book taught me this, and this is what we use whenever we do our coaching calls. This is how I live and breathe. So. And
Kathy, I was going to tell you, like, definitely switch over to like virtual chats. I mean, you're used to having in-person chats with people. Like, you guys can connect via Skype, Zoom, FaceTime, Facebook Messenger video. Like, totally convert to that. People will be just fine with that. I mean,
absolutely, they'd be excited.
We've all built our business that way. So, like, don't feel like you have to have in-person meetings with people.
Absolutely.
And ask people in place of, you want to meet for coffee, just how about if we do this over whatever, FaceTiming or whatever, that you just ask them, okay.
Especially like,
I mean,
right now.
People have to understand, right? I mean,
especially now.
Yeah. I would love to have coffee with you, but I can't. So can you get coffee? And can I call you at 9 and then we just talk? And people are going to like it. Like, whenever I call people and people see my face, they're like, you're the only person who calls like this. And I'm like, or you're the only person who sends voice memos. Nobody does that. But like, set yourself apart in some way. Like,
yeah. And I don't really even ask. I just let them know, like, you know, so awesome, we're going to do this. Okay, so I'm going to send you a link, or I'm going to call you on FaceTime, or I'm going to this. And then they'll be like, what? You're going to what? And then I tell them, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I do all of it like this. Have you never done this? And they're like, no. And I'm like, we don't even have to leave our house. Like, it is awesome. So it's definitely a presentation thing as well. Okay, so let me scoot over. Did you guys have any other questions? I'm sorry. Okay. If you do not already have a decent visual on what this will look like for you, hopefully this will help. I am going to scooch over to sharing my screen. And so I want you guys to tell me if you see it. Do you see it now?
Yep.
Okay, so you can see my screen. All right. Oh, come down here. All right. Okay, so I'm gonna go to my Google Calendar. All right. So I have color coded it. And we'll just start here on Sunday. So Sunday, I blocked 2 hours here to work. Inside of here, okay, so this inside of here are my ideas for what I wanted to get done. You can see I actually did not get that done. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the things I didn't get done last week. And I will say this. In light of what the world is going through right now, one of the things I have been having to work on very much inside of my time blocking is erase, or don't erase, replace. So when we don't get something done, it just gets moved to a different place. And that is just fine. No guilt, no shaming, no telling yourself you're terrible because you didn't anything, right? So Sunday I block a couple hours here, and this is normally to plan tutorials or do a tutorial or do something inside of my preferred customer or skincare group that I have. And so with Google Calendar, I'm able to color code my work time as pink, and then I have told myself inside of here, just inside the notes, Google Calendar is very easy to use. I am not tech savvy, and this has been simple for me. So this is how I do that. Then on Sunday nights, here I have an hour where I prep my week, and that's when I sit down. And again, this is an example for you. It's going to look different for you in your life and however you need to do it. This is what works for me. And on Sunday night, I sit down, I take about an hour to time block my week, prep my week, get my list together, and just kind of go over everything, make sure I haven't double booked myself anywhere, any stuff like that. When you guys schedule Calendly meetings with me, they will pop up in here, and I'm able to get a look on that in real time, and that's lovely as well. So Mondays for us is the day that we go somewhere for instruction in our homeschool, and so all of Monday is blocked out for school. I am actually, I think I've adjusted that a little bit in the weeks to come, but for us, Monday is a very heavy school day, and so work today. For me, I popped in an hour so that I could review the time blocking training that we're doing tonight. And then tonight, I have a block in here for the training, and then the meetup Monday. And you can see here, every night I have blocked 6 to 8 p.m. for family. It is my choice to do things like virtual events and whatever there. So, again, one of the things that got to me in the beginning was I said I was going to do this, but now I'm not. Well, my time is flexible. Your time is flexible. And so for me, I'm able to put in a virtual event over family time, and I communicate with my family how often that how much is too much for them. And so if that makes sense to you guys. And then for me, I'm a morning person. So you can see here, every morning is my work block. Okay. Every morning. And so the key to time blocking is not only am I telling myself when I'm working, so I'm working from 8 to 10, but also I've told myself exactly what I'm going to do. So there's no guesswork. There's no wasted time. For me, tomorrow morning, the first thing that I'm going to do is work on my sister and my other direct Amber's virtual event. I'm hosting one on Friday night, one on Saturday night. I'm going to touch 12 new people, and I'm going to check in with all of my directs. That is what I'm going to do in the time block that I have from 8 to 10. Then I'm off work. I'm doing school with the kids from 10 to 11. That's blocked out. And then I come back and I'm wrapping up any to-dos or undone things. So is Becca still here? I can't see you guys. But she was asking, do I have
I'm
time?
here.
Okay, great. So as you can see, I do have time. This is my make time, and this is my manage time. And so I've told myself not only when am I going to work, but what am I going to do? Here for 1 hour, I'm going to sit down at my computer. I'm going to wrap up anything that I didn't get done. I'm already building in some grace for myself. And I'm checking my messages because I've reached out to people in the morning to see if people have written me back or anything else, okay? I do not have, actually, I have book club on Tuesday nights, so that should be in there, but it's not. Again, you'll see, you're never going to see perfectionism out of me, ever. We're all just showing up and doing our best. On Wednesday mornings, this always looks the same, between 8 and 9. Between 8 and 9, I prep Power Hour. And at the end of the month, I'm writing everybody on the entire team that is over 500, and we're talking about that 1,500 mark. We've been talking about creating $500 and up paychecks on the team, and so that's a heavy focus of mine. And so I want to make sure that I'm personally checking in with you guys, with everybody on the team that's working really hard, so I can reconnect to your why and just get in there with you, get in there and work with you. And then from 9 to 10, we do Work Together Wednesday. I have a little bit of breathing room to grab a snack, go to the bathroom. And from 10:30 to 11 or 11:30, I blocked out my time with my business coach. After that, I get right to school. I'm actually only schooling with my children. They're self-sufficient except for 1 hour on Wednesdays. And then I have given myself, this is one mistake I made in the beginning, was there was no light. I blocked all my time. And listen, if that works for you, great, go for it. But that made me feel suffocated. And so I do not do that. And so in here, I have some loose time. And what may happen for me in my loose time, this is just my example again, is my children may need me more for a little bit more school activity. Maybe they want to play. That's great. Maybe I need to sit down and I need a rest. Maybe I open up a personal development book, or I turn on a podcast and do some dishes, anything like that, okay? And then here again, work from 2 to 3. I've got create. This is an hour in the afternoon, and I will check, like I don't need to write it down here for myself. I will recheck my messages in these afternoon slots. And so from 2 to 3, I'm going to sit down again on Wednesday and I'm going to create, whether that's a virtual event, an idea for you guys, whatever new thing I want to create, that's my time to do that. Is this making sense to you guys?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the way that I do it. I use Google Calendar to do it. The idea is that going back to everything that I just took you guys through, we identify our one thing, right? We've talked about, well, really, you start with your yearly goals and then you work backwards. And then you identify the one thing there. And it's the most important thing to time block your one thing, right? And so that's what we're doing. We're putting it in there. We're saying the time we're going to do it. We're saying exactly what we're going to do to get it accomplished, and then we're getting it done. And with any leftover time that we might have, we're doing the next one thing that would get us a little closer to that. Do you guys have any questions at all about anything that I went over?
No, seems
No?
simple.
Was it helpful?
Yeah.
Very.
Yeah.
Sarah, on your calendar, you had a time block where you were touching 12 people.
Yeah.
Is that it's regarding your business, so it's maybe reach outs, maybe follow-ups?
That's reach out. So that was me.
Okay.
That's my language inside my head. Touching 12 people, I know that means that I'm reaching out to 12 people that day. So you'll use whatever language you talk to yourself in. That's what Sarah says to Sarah. That morning, I'm gonna sit down. I'm gonna touch 12 people before I do anything else. And so that's that. All right, I am gonna push the stop.